Hi everybody, my name is Tim Garrett and welcome to our three-part series about moving PeopleSoft to the cloud, or more specifically PeopleSoft on the cloud and unleashing the power that that brings to you. So again, thank you for joining me, and we're going to break this seminar or this webinar series up into three parts. The first part, I'm going to be taking you through kind of the reasons why government organizations are looking to move to the public cloud. The next section, the next webinar, is going to be about not only why, but then about how. How long does it take? What types of decisions you're going to be making between that point of identifying the need to move and moving. And then the third one is going to be about the value that you get out of that. And it's going to be taking you through the different design decisions you're going to make in the public cloud and the benefit and value that you're going to get from some of those decisions. So three really great sessions. I hope you join me for all three of them. They're all going to be between 15 and 20 minutes in length, so easily consumable as part of a quick lunch or just a quick moment that you have in your day when you want a little bit more information relevant to the world around you. So again, let's get started. All right, so a little bit about Sierra-Cedar before we get started. I have one slide at the very end that gives you a little bit more information about us as well, but all I really want to tell you here is we've been doing this a long time. We've been working with Amazon, been working with Oracle Technologies, and have really had the pleasure to learn these technologies in terms of how we apply them to our own company, and then how we assist our clients in both implementing these technologies and running them long term. We do both managed services and consulting services. So everything that I'm about to talk about in this series comes from a hard-earned and let's just say hard-earned experience. And again, my name is Tim Garrett. I'm the EVP for Sierra-Cedar's Cloud Managed Services Practices. I've been with the organization for going on 20 years now, and I've had the pleasure to be in multiple roles within the organization. And in the role I'm in now, I get the distinct pleasure to see not only the sales process and the decisions that our clients are making early on in that process, but also the ultimate result and outcome of what those decisions end up becoming for our clients. So definitely excited to share some of that more of that with you today. All right, so let's get into the meat of this discussion in terms of why governments are moving to cloud. This is that first part, this first starting point of the decision that you're going to make. And where I'd like to start this conversation typically is the four ways you typically get to this decision of moving to cloud. The first one is strategic. So for organizations that where you hear the terms all-in cloud or a cloud-first strategy, these are typically going to be strategic migrations that start with top-down vision. Okay, and in these types of scenarios, you're going to know that the cloud is where you're going to go, and you're going to be marching toward that end. On the flip side of that, you have the tactical pursuit of cloud technology. This is where your back's up against the wall. You have to do something. You ran out of hardware, you don't have data center space to deploy what you're looking to deploy, and you need to move. What do? Those are the tactical kind of back up against the wall scenarios, but then get you there. Another path to take is the opportunistic path. This is probably the toe in the water type of path. This is where you have an upcoming opportunity. It's not immediate, your back isn't against the wall, but you leverage the opportunity to get a feel for what it takes to get into public cloud and start to leverage it. And the last is expansion. And really where this comes into play is if you're using the cloud today or you're not using the cloud today, and you're looking to expand a particular application functionality, you might choose to do that in cloud. It's similar to opportunistic, but it typically is a net new technology and net new need, which opens up the door to leveraging cloud technologies. All right. So in addition to how you get there, now let's talk about some of the kind of the struggles of the environment that we are in today, and how cloud can also help nudge you along one of those four paths I just talked about. And one of those items that it comes up a lot is really security and ransomware. Ransomware is hitting governments very hard today. And if you're not familiar with what a ransomware attack is, it's essentially a situation where a user within the organization somehow gets infected with a piece of software that quickly, once it's introduced into the environment, propagates itself to the different servers and applications within the environment, and then proceeds to either damage those applications or servers or encrypt them, and ultimately force the government agency or government entity to pay a ransom, hence the term ransomware, to get their data back or to clean their systems from whatever has infected it. And this can be not only costly in terms of the amount of money it could take should a government entity decide to pay off a ransom agent, or fix it themselves. So this can be very, very costly, both in terms of money and in terms of time. And where this really becomes impactful is for organizations that haven't adopted or even started to adopt a cloud technology, and everything is within the traditional data center ecosystem that you might be living in today. Okay, so depending upon how far down this path of cloud adoption you have moved, can determine how impacted you are by an actual ransomware attack should it impact your environment. And I'll talk about what I mean by that in a minute. In terms of recent cyber attacks, look, I pulled an example of recent attacks just in New York, all right? 30 plus, very recent, big entities. Everything that you see on the screen is public knowledge. And again, I want to hit this point home that this ransomware cyber attack scenario is extremely real. And unless you're either dealing with it directly, and there are some technologies that help you deal with this directly in terms of antivirus and forensics tools and data aggregators that help you identify attacks and where they're coming from quicker, enabling you to address them quicker. So that is one path. The other path is to spread out your risk and to essentially find ways to move applications into different spheres of running to protect the blast radius of what a particular attack would impact your organization with. So, and I'll probably close out with that topic on blast radius, and really what that means at the end of the day is isolating risk for your entity so that if an attack occurs, it's occurring for a much smaller pool of applications. All right, and again, along this topic, for some clients of ours that have had experiences like this, the ones that were more diversified in cloud, whether that was they were leveraging SaaS applications, these are applications running and licensed out of the cloud, or they were just leveraging AWS and cloud-based infrastructure providers in the correct way to, again, isolate risk, they were not as impacted by these sorts of cyber attack and ransomware issues. All right, so really important topic that can become tactical, but really should start out and should get you started now with thinking more on that strategic side, to look for opportunities, to look for expansion, ways to expand, leveraging these cloud technologies to get you comfortable with them. Recovery is another area that we see a lot of need for cloud. So even going back to the scenario I just gave you with ransomware, if you have an attack and you don't have a recovery scenario that includes either backup technologies or data sitting in a site outside of your primary site, you have a big risk in front of you. So recovery is something that we have seen we have seen less preparedness within the government space historically. And if you're an organization that's dealing with not having a disaster recovery solution, not having a full recovery solution in place, the public cloud can be a great place to take care of that problem now while not changing a lot of things within your environment. So AWS has got some great solutions for organizations that have a primary site and are running just fine, but need that extra comfort of a disaster site in case there was an issue that impacted applications either broadly or narrowly within their environment. So recovery is a very current and historical need within the public sector that drives cloud adoption. And coming back to this topic of blast radius, and then we're going to wrap up with a quote. We're going to wrap up with a couple extra slides, and we're done with this session. But I want to hit this one home. So blast radius is a scenario where where you see that before picture, that's your traditional data center that you have today. If you have an attack, cyber attack, a ransomware attack, if you have a recovery scenario where you lose this center for any particular reason, everything within that circle can be affected. Everything. All right. Think about that. I mean, that's a big scope of problems to solve all at once. Versus the other side, the after picture, is where you break things up. You leverage a SaaS application, could be one of those small bubbles. You leverage AWS for one application. You can actually set up an AWS migration scenario where you create a separate bubble for each application within your environment, and then you let them talk to one another in very limited ways, therefore reducing blast radius dramatically. So if you have an attack on one of your bubbles within that after picture, look, your attack vector is super small. You're able to deal with that as an organization and keep your constituents up and live and dealing with the systems as they were intended. All right. One of the quotes I put up here on the screen is from one of our friends at Douglas County DOT, and they've done this. They have moved a majority of their applications out of traditional data centers and into different types of cloud solutions, whether that's SaaS, whether that's AWS, and they've been very isolated from these types of attacks because of that. And Vijay would be a great person to talk to if you ever run into him at a conference, virtually or otherwise, and to have this discussion with him. Really, really impressive job they've done, and you know, they understand this problem well. All right. So a little bit about Sierra-Cedar again, and this is the only slide I'm going to show you like this. But again, been doing this a long time. I've been working in the AWS environment within the PeopleSoft ecosystem going back to the 90s. So how these applications run in cloud, we're very familiar with. How to leverage them as either your first or maybe your last migration into public cloud in terms of how they migrate and what works, what doesn't work, how they're set up, etc. We know this space, and we can definitely help you with any questions you might have. So thank you, folks. Again, the next two items in the series is going to be about how what the migration looks like for you. And the last one, it gets into the detail on some of the design decisions and the value that cloud has added. And I thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you in the next session, everyone. Thank you.